This is the Segovia Show.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome all. This is the Segovia Show. I'm your host, Segovia. And as tends to be the case, whenever I want to go live without a problem, there's always something that breaks. I'm using StreamYard to connect to Rumble. It looks like that's holding strong. So if you're tuning in, thanks very much. Just need to make sure that it's not on Wi-Fi, though. And I just turned off Wi-Fi, so if I'm still streaming, good. It's supposed to be hardwired. The problem is that my OneNotes are not pulling up, and all my notes were there. So I've been having to manually pull up my, recreate some of the notes that I prepared for this stream. So I think I have some of my bookmarks saved over on X. Oh, yeah, let me use pro.x. Yeah. It's better than just using the typical. All right, that's gonna be better. Okay, so well, there's a lot going on, and I typed up the title in a hurry, but I might as well just address real quick. Just I talked about it in a previous stream. I was gonna do this tech stream last week because of the tragedy that happened to Charlie Kirk and his family. I had to address that instead. And because I, like many others in this sphere that respected him, I didn't know him personally. I had been invited to certain events where ones that he hosted and others where he was going to be present, but I turned him down. But nothing against the man himself. It's just there were some other figures there I didn't want to be a party to. Liars, grifters, and the such. So I didn't go. But do I regret not going? No, I don't. I stand by my convictions. It's a reminder of, well, just how things could change one to another. So one thing that I had hoped to do last week was be able to share with you guys my weekend before that, where I got to spend some time with friends of mine, including some of the legends that are the heroes of Benghazi. So I tried to touch on that towards the end of that stream that I did last week. And forgive me, I will never again use Apple AirPods Max as a backup because I love my Audio Technicas, but man, I didn't like how I looked. It's ridiculous. But it was just something I had to put together at the very last minute. So I made some changes to my headphones to replace them because some of the stuff was falling apart. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Point is that I had taken down, I unlisted the stream on YouTube and on Rumble. I ended up putting him back on because I wasn't happy with how I presented myself. I had a hard time looking at the camera. I didn't want to look at it. I caught myself a few times in the stream. I didn't want to burst into tears all over again. But as I saw others that were feeling the very same way and were trying to keep it together, and some of them just couldn't for their own shows, I'm like, why have to be ashamed of mine? So I ended up putting the stream back into public. I didn't take it down, I didn't delete it or anything. So I relisted it on Rumble, and I did the same for YouTube. The problem over on YouTube, though, was that YouTube, unless you saw it in your feed, you wouldn't be able to actually see it. I didn't find out until much later that for some reason, it's unknown to me, the link, whether I share it from YouTube Studio or whether I go to the video itself on youtube.com and click share from there, that always ends up as a broken link. I shared it in multiple places. People were reporting to me. It's like, hey, look, the link is broken. Can you repost it? It says it doesn't exist. So I kept testing it over and over again on different platforms, on different browsers. It could have been mobile. It could have been a desktop, like Mac and Windows. They were all showing the same, that it didn't exist. But if you were to pull it up on the feed, which you probably got it buried somewhere down there, that's why very few of you tuned in after the fact on YouTube, which is understandable too. It just wasn't appearing for anybody. And I don't know what happened there, but I can tell you from behind the scenes, because I even predicted it in the stream, that YouTube was going to censor it. Now, I'm not saying that this is an act of censorship on YouTube's part. I just believe there is a glitch somewhere that just made it more difficult for people to actually check it out. But the full stream is up on Rumble and on Substack, where now I'm hosting pretty much everything. And I did take a clip out of there instead of sharing it on the socials, particularly on Instagram, because everything that I said, especially in that one soundbite, has come to pass with respects to people grieving and not being satisfied with the answers that are being provided. There's questions, of course, around the events that people have, naturally so, but I just knew that more so than anything else, that there were going to be so many more questions, and now the people on the right are back at it again. They're at each other's throats over this, and it's like they're all trying to fight over the mantle of Charlie Kirk. Like, dude, he did his thing, and you do your thing. Stop pretending you're going to be a Charlie Kirk. And just about an hour or two ago, the Erica Kirk, the widow, so awful to even say it like that, she was appointed as the CEO of Turning Point USA and the head of the board as well. So, which is the obvious choice. But with the whole thing talking about censorship, whatever, I might as well just touch on it real quick, because I do have some thoughts with respects to what some on the left are calling right-wing cancel culture, because Jimmy Kimmel is officially off the air indefinitely. Forgive me, I try not to cheer. I am not going to shed a tear for someone that all he did was spew propaganda and rarely threw a joke. He wanted people like me unalived because I did not toe the line with what they wanted me to do. They wanted me shunned out of the public. Said if I did not take this thing and go into the emergency room, I should not receive care. I should die out on the streets. That's the guy that just lost his job. Aside from the fact that his ratings dropped like 80% in ratings, like what, in the past year, nobody was watching the show. Losing millions of dollars. This was the excuse that whatever company decided, you know what, let's just off it. But now let's talk about that the FCC is behind this thing. So as someone on this show that has been the victim of censorship over and over and over again, especially from someone that claims to be my partner, and that's looking at you, YouTube, I know a thing or two about being censored. I know a thing or two about being attempted at being doxxed, the threatening emails that I have received, also the threats that I have received via Blue Sky. So none of the stuff that was happening on Blue Sky was a surprise to anybody that it spends maybe a few seconds there. I've seen it myself because I've been the victim of this, but the difference is that on Blue Sky, they're still doing this. Despite me reporting some of these things, those posts are still up. So the difference being, especially what Jimmy Kimmel said, was a factual lie that is what incites what we saw transpire last week. Okay? Regardless of your opinion about the guy, what Jimmy Kimmel was saying was an absolute lie, saying that the assassin in this case was one of their own, referring to MAGA. Really? So why are all of you the ones celebrating it? Because no one over on MAGA was celebrating this. We were mourning, we were praying, we had vigils. It's not the same thing. And we're looking at our consequences for all the lies that have led to these things. Now, because for some whatever reason, it's not working for me here. Maybe it's just God trying to tell me, he's like, maybe I don't have to share this here on this one and just say it for a different stream or whatever. I wanted to share the links with you about the actual incitements from the left that then turn around and tell us that we got to tone down the rhetoric. It's like, what rhetoric? You mean disagreeing with you? Because look at everything that you guys have done, not just said, but actually done in trying to condone what happened. And for anybody that's shocked about like people on the left that were celebrating and still are, and then ruining memorials that were put up for Charlie Kirk, for those of you that are shocked, how could they be celebrating these kind of things? Did you not see what happened when Luigi, what's his face, took out that United Healthcare whatever insurance guy on in the streets right there in the early hours of of a workday? That was an assassination right there. And the left celebrated it. That includes tech tubers. Okay? There are a bunch of tech tubers that I am subscribed from because that was the level of derangement that I knew existed, but they weren't hiding it anymore. And I said, these people want people that they disagree with dead. Okay? That's exactly what they wanted. So for people to come out and besmirch Erica Kirk and the kids and saying some of the most awful things I don't want to repeat here. What the hell, man? That's why I needed to touch on that, because this isn't cancel culture. These are people in positions of supposedly helping others that apparently wouldn't help you if they found out that you guys didn't agree. Last year, after the hurricanes tore through the Carolinas, FEMA, under the Biden administration, there were individuals at a local level that were refusing to aid people in the flooded areas that had Trump signs out there. Why is that even a point of anything? Why do their political persuasions matter? They shouldn't. And while some leaders on the left would say that Trump's got to tone down his rhetoric, last I checked, he wasn't the one that did an impromptu speech in Pennsylvania with all these bright red lights behind it with the Marine Guard and demonizing half of Americans and calling them a domestic threat to America and our democracy. That was Joe Biden. That wasn't Trump. And if Trump is always the one villainizing other people, why is it that he's the one that you guys do with the Charlotte's big lie that there were good people on both sides of the hall? He condemned the neo-Nazis, racists, and all that. But you guys cut it off and then say, see, there's good people on both sides. Can you believe that? It's like, hold on. So he's either smearing or he's accepting. But it just doesn't make sense. Pick a lane, guys. You need to pick a lane. So it's an emotional thing. It's a passionate thing. It's not something that I was attempting to address, but it has to be talked about because I do believe that there are going to be some people that probably lose their jobs that shouldn't be losing their jobs just because they have a disagreement. And we're talking about individuals that are absolutely downright inciting and are a danger to other individuals. I wouldn't want to work with people that literally want me unalived. I wouldn't want that. It's like I wouldn't feel safe in that environment. And corporations are required to have a safe work environment. Isn't that why supposedly conservatives were being canceled by all these corporations? Because some people said he invaded my safe space. Like, why? He has a different position than I do. Speech is violence. And then people would be losing their jobs en masse. Their addresses would be doxxed just because they disagree with them. The left hasn't had that concern. Please give me a break. And when people try to establish a moral equivalency, and I talked about it and I called it out because it was so disgusting, what happened when this guy that was dressed as a police officer and was wearing like a latex mask, and he himself went over to do this awful thing to, I think there were state legislators. Was it Minnesota or Michigan? It was one of those two states. The point is that it was an awful thing. I condemned it outright. And then people were trying to say that, oh, see, this is what the right wanted. The right was saying that they were probably targeted because look at what happened leading up to this. And I'm not even all like the whole thing is just a weird mishmash of a bunch of things. Okay, I think both sides are getting it wrong here. I think there's a lot more to that story too that no one's really talking about, because they say, "See, that was a MAGA or whatever." It's like, no, it wasn't. We're supposed to be taking the word of a supposed roommate, which brings up a lot of questions about that. Because like, huh, what was he doing there if the guy had lived in a much better place and I believe he was married? But not just that, the supposedly the guy himself claimed that Tim Waltz sent him. So Tim Waltz was Minnesota, right? Yeah, Minnesota. So there's so much about that case that's so odd, but people don't look into any of this. They'll just bicker and argue over headlines, and I don't like the finger pointing in any case anywhere. So I would hate for people to lose their jobs if there's a disagreement. If there are people that are outright, celebrating, that are demanding more, those are the people that are a danger. And no, I would not shed a tear that you lose your job, because you, in some cases, we're talking about people that are doctors, pediatricians, first responders. You mean to tell me they wouldn't help me if I'm in need? You know, the story I wanted to tell you guys that I said I couldn't tell last week, and I might do it at the very end of this, is with respects to the 6 guys that were on the ground in Benghazi, Libya, September 11, 2012, and that's what the story of 13 Hours is all about. That they were held back for 20 minutes, or stand down order, the most controversial part of the whole thing. They were told to stand down two times from going to help the ambassador that were under attack, and he only had like just a handful of guys to protect them, supposedly because they're relying on local militia to provide security. So when you have all these terrorists that are moving in, and 1 mile away is a CIA annex, and 6 global response staff members, that, well, 5 were present, the other one was dealing with a caseworker in town. But the point is, he came back as soon as he heard the call. So these 6 guys, they wanted to go out and help, and they were told to stand down, but they went anyway, knowing that they would lose their contracts, and if anything ever happens to them, workers' comp was going to ditch them because you guys went out of the purview of your contract. They risked everything, and they all had families, by the way, to go out there. Okay, you know what they didn't do? They didn't go over there and check on their pronouns. They didn't ask them what political persuasion they were. They just said, Americans are in trouble, let us help. That is the American spirit that I'm talking about. That's what this is all about. That's why it's the concern if people are in first responder positions, people that are teachers that are showing the videos of the assassination and showing the kids so they could celebrate. This is not the same thing. There is no moral equivalency. It's not about both sides do it. If you really want to go down that route, holy smokes. And when you see how much of these numbers have been fudged to try to hide how much the left has enacted in political violence, particularly in the past 15 years. It's just bonkers what's happened. Okay, so no, I will not sit and stand for that. But just like ICE has been arresting, detaining, and accident American citizens, they shouldn't have been. There will be situations where it happens here. I don't like that happens. I don't like that there'll probably be racial profiling, but why is it only Hispanics that are supposedly crossing the border? Well, all sorts cross the border. But anyway, the point is that happens. So I just really needed to get that out of my system, because it's not something I wanted to dwell with. And how much time have I gone on? Okay, because I'll shoot to locals. I only have a few more minutes for locals, because I made it a permanent fixture of my shelf. So I have the Turning Point USA book that Charlie Kirk wrote, and I put it next to Rush Limbaugh's book. And I saw that Glenn Beck did a similar gesture, in this case the golden EIB microphone for Charlie Kirk Show 9. That's an incredible gesture. I didn't even know that Rush's wife gave it to Glenn, so that was like that blew me away. It's like, wow, that's incredible. But he and I thought the same thing. It could have been our generation's Rush Limbaugh, and he probably was for the younger generation. My generation is Rush Limbaugh. He helped me find my voice. But anyway, that's why it's a fixture on my shelf. But I also have a picture of Charlie Kirk to my left. For now, this one I dedicate to Charlie and his family. We're still in mourning. We're still praying for all you, Erica, the kids, and everyone affected by this. It's just an awful, awful thing. It's just there needs to be accountability for a lot. And it does sadden me, because I wanted to share with all of you what I intended to put up here, finding some way, somehow, a birthday gift that I received. Here we go, it's in frame. A birthday gift that I received for arguably my most favorite movie. I love Nolan. Christopher Nolan's amazing, but even his most perfect movie has issues, and that's Interstellar. And the most perfect movie I've ever seen is the movie Heat by Michael Mann, starring Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, the late Val Kilmer. So for a friend of mine to surprise me with this, like, oh, you got me a poster. Wait a minute, what are those scribbles on this thing? It's like, it's signed by Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and Val Kilmer, and a certificate of authenticity in the back to prove it. I'm like, Oh my goodness. And he was like, maybe you can show this to you could put it or find him someplace for it in the studio. I was like, dude, I would love to, man. This is awesome. It's amazing. Thank you so very much. And it just so happens that I just got the 4K. I had pre-ordered it and then I unpre-ordered it because I heard that the 4K transfer wasn't all that good, just like the blue hue, I think, or whatever. So I'll judge it for myself because I'm like, you know what, I might as well give it a shot. So I'll see how I like or don't like the picture, especially because I have the director's definitive edition, and I also have the original edition on DVD. So I'll see how all that compares. But I just needed to get that out there. It's a lot has changed in that respect. Our country was at a turning point where people need to be accountable for their actions, and there's no going back. You can only push one side and then tell them to tone things down. It's like, dude, you guys been attacking us it's all this time, and it's just we're seeing play out as consequence culture or consequences. So yeah, it's just. eh, I still believe that there's room for civil discourse, and there are those that would like to have it, and I would like to continue to be able to engage in those. But it's also one of the primary reasons why people have asked me why don't I haven't done interviews in person with individuals because my early interviews were, but then as things progressed and my show took a little different turn and tone, I decided to have for the safety of everyone involved, just like I'll just keep it to virtual. And besides, virtual opened a whole other world to me or else I would not have been able to have all the guests that I have had on this program. And in that some respects, I got to give a shout out to Rumble, because I don't have the largest audience on Rumble. I have a fraction of the audience on Rumble that I do on YouTube. But the reason I appreciate Rumble is because yeah, I can speak freely now. Before, when I first joined, it wasn't like that. It is now, and they have a ton of services and things that do work out, and it allows me. In this case, I'm using StreamYard and Rumble Studio as a bridge. I'm transmitting to multiple different places. I'm going to YouTube, Rumble, Locals, Twitch, D Live, Ganjin World. Shout out to Ganjin World. I got my first payout. Woohoo! And I think there's one more. Oh, and X. So it's going so many places, and that would not be possible if it wasn't for Rumble Studio. So it's a tool that we've been testing since I joined the Rumble Creators Program last year. I'm not in the Rumble Creators Program this time, but I still appreciate it. That's why right above the on air, if you can see it, I have my Rumble cap that I got from my partnership, because they deserve a shout out. But shout out to my buddy George. Thank you so much for this birthday gift. Locals is about to time out, so if you're still watching Locals, you might want to jump over to Rumble. Thank you so much. This is an awesome gift that I got for my birthday, and I'll try to find a place for it somewhere here. It's gonna get a little crowded, but I'll see how I can make some space. But for today. I'm not. There's no promos for anything. It's just Charlie Kirk and his memory and all that. And just I just all I can do, and I hope that you guys will join me, is to pray for the family, the friends, all those that are impacted by this, and pray for our country. Because it does feel like a turning point, and nobody wants to see anything like this happen again, except for those that are cheering on the left. And and I don't want to sound like, oh, you're dividing on this because you keep saying the left. No, I'm telling you what they're doing. They're showing you what they're doing because they've been celebrating on social media. That doesn't mean it's all of them. Okay, so I don't like painting a broad brush either, because it's not all of them, because some of them said we want no part of this. Some of them are either going independent or registering as a Republican. And I don't believe that registering Republican is a solution either, okay? It's how you vote. And you can register, but you're still voting the same way. You're not really fixing anything. But yeah. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say. I have wished I would have talked to you about local matters, because that's what all these things do. They distract from the stuff that really impacts us at the local level. There's been some stuff that happened in real estate that I was not able to get to, and not even in time to be able to inform you. For those of you that have been following my coverage of the LA fires, I wish I could have told you that right now we're on the precipice of the state, through the state legislator, might be acquiring some of that burnt a property that belongs to private owners, by the way, and through the use of tax dollars to repurpose those single family areas and turn them into low income, dense population housing. So that is the equivalence of eminent domain, because the county and the city have been slowballing any permits. And I talked about this with Resilient Roofing earlier in the summer. I think it was mid-June that I had Seth Larson from Resilient Roofing. We were talking about that very thing, and that's a great interview. To go check it out because it still applies still today, and that's not going to age anytime soon. It's going to be valid for a very long time, especially you want to understand better about construction in California and in dealing with all this bureaucracy that stifles building and growth and things like that. So I wish I could have told you sooner. I wish I could have told you that LA County and LA City are trying to take actions against property owners again, because that's all they can ever do as a reaction to whatever the administration is doing to punish property owners here. So that stuff I couldn't get out to you in time. And I probably would do them as write-ups or social media posts. So that's why this ticker is down here. Follow me across the socials. And if you're on Substack, thank you so much for the new subscribers over on Substack. I do use the notes feature. So I don't know if you get notified when I put up a note. A note's kind of like a social media post. So I hope you're able to check that out. But for everyone else, locals, it's about the time out for you. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. And again, shout out to you, George, because I know you tune in through locals mostly. But I'll see how I can get this thing to fit here. But we have to watch Heat because you haven't seen it yet. So we're gonna make that happen. So locals, you're welcome to jump over to Rumble. Now for everybody else, we're gonna talk tech. Okay, I'm gonna do the stream that I couldn't do last week, and for that I will share my screen. I had this neon flag playing in the background. So let me see. Yeah, it's still playing in the background. Let me bring this back up. Since I'm switching topics, I might switch away. So I wanted to go quickly over. There technically were 4 events. I don't know if you guys knew this, but there were like 4 tech events, and I didn't get to talk about the Google thing. I might touch on it real quick too, because there's some stuff that's interesting. But when you get to the bottom of it, everyone's just trying to deal with AI. Duh. But Apple didn't deal with it, although they did say they were at the forefront of AI. Like I laughed out loud when I heard that at the presentation. So let me start with Apple and work my way backwards to remind you guys of some stuff that popped up and stuff that you might have missed. Okay, so it's like more of the smaller things that were going on out there. So let me start with Manzana or Apple. All right, and trying to change the tonality of where I'm going with this. It just feels a little inappropriate, but it's the truth. We got life goes on. The world hasn't stopped spinning. I know it stopped for other people, and as heavily impacted as I am over the whole thing too, I know that Charlie would want us to keep on going. So keep on going. I shall. So I'll leave the pulsating circuit for now, but I should do this instead. Oh no, that cuts the whole thing off. I know it took me off the screen altogether. Okay, I'll leave it like this then. All right, let me talk about Apple, and also I gotta call out the tech tubers. I'm very disappointed with how they handled this, with the exception of Mr. Who's the Boss. Mr. Who's the Boss, I think, was probably the most honest that I saw. I didn't see his latest video, so I hope it's not just a thumbnail too. But I believe it's an egregious act for tech tubers that just last year complained that competitors were not using enough titanium in their builds for their phones that were more expensive, to now celebrate Apple for getting rid of titanium and going back to an aluminum frame so they can have better color options. Like, huh? That none of that makes any sense. I believe that it just feels like they're selling out. Okay, I don't like how that makes me feel. It's just the fact that I didn't like, especially those that I respect the most. They seem to have been carrying water for Apple after what was a disastrous event. Let me see. Let me put it in here. How much market value did Apple lose after the recent Apple event? Okay, they lost $56.8 billion in market value. So in total, and that's just immediately afterwards. So in total, the initial drop saw a 1.5% fall, wiping out approximately $52.8 billion. And then the second day, it declined by another 3.23, leading to a total loss of over $112 billion in 2 days. Now, they're a multi-trillion dollar company, but those small drops account for so much. So when I tell you that I did not like, and I found it egregious for tech tubers to be carrying the water for Apple when everyone saw that, what the hell is this? That's why today the breaking news that Apple's gonna get into the foldable space. Yeah, duh. Some of us were actually expecting that update. But now I guess they're trying to make it more official after wiping out $112 billion because they thought this was going to be okay. So starting off with the iPhone 17 Pro, that thing just screams Pixel. So, and this is what I told some people, and some of you guys know this too. I've expressed it over and over again that Android and iOS, and now hardware-wise, they've been trying to almost melt together that you won't be able to tell the difference anymore. So when you see that, oh my gosh, Apple iOS now has widgets. Well, yeah, welcome to 2000, what, 8, 9? When did Android have it? Way long ago, okay? So now with the whole foldable thing, they're gonna say, oh my gosh, Apple's inventing foldables. That's a joke, but it probably would be true that they might even say that. It's just that now with this whole grill thing they got going on in the back, tell me, look, how is that not a Pixel? And now with this whole, I love the campaign, by the way, the Pixel and the iPhone being the best friends. It just makes a lot of sense. Well, in this case, it's now they're just becoming mirror image of one another. It's like, hey, I like what you're doing. Let me copy your notes. That was the accusation against Samsung because it looks like they were trying to look more iPhone-ish and kind of pander to the iPhone crowd. And now iPhone is trying to look and feel more like Android. And for the most part, they both kind of do. It's just the ridiculous breakdown in how settings work on iOS that just drives me up a wall. When do I have to go to the main phone settings to adjust an app setting? And when can I adjust the settings for the app from within the app? Those little things, my goodness, it's insane. But overall, going back to this, I think the most pathetic moment was this. Let me go to the iPhone Air. This is the one that more people were talking about, especially because, oh my gosh, you're innovating the front-facing camera because now they have center stage. You don't have to rotate your phone if you want to get a landscape shot. Look, that's nice. I like that. But please, can we stop pretending like this was such an incredible achievement? This is exactly like Samsung S25 Edge, okay? It's just that people just find it more impressive with the thinnest iPhone ever. If it's so impressively thin, why did you take the time, Apple, to show you putting a freaking MagSafe battery attachment to it? If you're gonna still put a freaking Mag case battery on it and you're showing it as one of the features, then what the hell is the point of this engineering marvel? It just makes the cameras protrude more. But I just thought that was absolutely bonkers that they would even bother showing you that. Look, I don't get me wrong. I like how it looks. I like the whole center stage front camera thing. That's pretty cool. I know people will appreciate that more because they, rotating the camera. And who knows? Maybe they'll apply for the back of the cameras too, where people can finally film the right way when they're holding it upright. No, but overall, it's just that trying to highlight, look, that how is that not iOS? I mean, Android. This whole thing's freaking Android. But the mere fact that Apple Intelligence, I'm sorry, that's an oxymoron. The battery cover, like, what a joke. Seriously, what a joke. And you're getting less for much more. And yes, for this, you do need the titanium frame because it's such a thin phone. You want to have a titanium frame here. But for a lot of us, it's like you only get a 48 megapixel shooter camera. And I heard some tech tubers say, well, maybe we won't miss the other cameras so much. You're paying more for less. That was my criticism of the Galaxy S25 Edge. That was my criticism of the Galaxy S25 Ultra. I said that if they keep taking parts away or functions away from the S Pen, then that means Samsung was going to get rid of the S Pen entirely. And then you have people like over on Sam Mobile that were making the case that it's important to have the S Pen on the Ultra because, it's the identity of the Ultra. It's the spiritual successor to the Note lineup. Only for a few months later for them to post up the Galaxy S26 Ultra might not have an S Pen and why that's a good thing. Who's carrying water for who? Seriously, like, what the hell is going on? These guys are, it's like they don't want to lose their access to these events. Is that it? They don't want to lose their privileges and be spoiled with all these goodie bags. And then they will go over to publish videos. And the only one that I know that constantly tells people that he doesn't carry the water for them and they don't get no editorial input into any of this is Mr. Mobile himself, Michael Fisher, which I appreciate. But I didn't like some of his takes, especially with the iPhone Air, because I think you should have been a lot more forceful in your criticism of it, because that's the very same thing you do with the other foldables if they're not up to standards, especially with Samsung. Because it was from the jump from the Z Fold 6 to the Z Fold 7 that Michael Fisher was like, finally. But here, it's just going backwards for an iPhone Air, and people are like, oh, it's got to celebrate this. That's why Apple lost $112 billion in valuation, because as an audience, I'm curious how many people are actually going to be driven by the fact that, hey, look, I can get less cameras that I have right now, unless you have an iPhone XR, then maybe this would be an upgrade for you. Yeah, duh. But anybody else, if you have a Pro, freaking A. Look, the 15 Pro has a stove in the back. We have 3 cameras in the back. This one has 1, but it costs more than this one. This one's titanium. At least it's that. But the new Pros are not titanium. They're supposed to be an aluminum frame. So when tech tubers are kind of justifying the price for this thing and the direction it's going with it, and like, oh my gosh, the innovations. There's no innovation here. There isn't, because they're sacrificing battery for this, and they know they are. That's why they're touting a freaking battery attachment to this thing. That's why I think it's disingenuous of tech tubers to do this. So this Christmas season to go shopping, I believe would be easier than ever, because if you could get massive discounts on this and you want to upgrade, then by all means take advantage of the discounts. But if you're going to be looking at this with an objectionable eye, you'll realize, meh, I don't need to get any of these new phones from Apple, especially when they're that ugly. And the rumors of what they might look like next year with the massive rumored redesign and the introduction of foldables, believe me, this is a leap year. Like, just forget what Apple just did. It's just teasing for what's coming next. That's the same thing I said for that foldable that Samsung released between the Z Fold 6 and the Z Fold 7, but they only released it in Korea and in China. And that one was already telling us which direction they were going to go with the 7. And when I saw it didn't have S Pen support, it just meant like I was bracing myself for the reality that they were going to take more features away. And they did, all to get the thinness. And look, if Xiaomi can do it, if Huawei can do it, I know Samsung can freaking do it. But they just wanted an out because they're trying to let go of the S Pen. And I hate that. I really, really do. And the fact that others like Sam Mobile are carrying water for them and kind of saying like, oh yeah, you'll appreciate it because you get more battery. Then why introduce the freaking S25 Edge? Why? It's more expensive than the standard and plus lineup, but not as expensive as an Ultra. You don't have to sacrifice the S Pen. So an S26 Ultra without an S Pen would just be no better than any other flagship that's out there. So those are my complaints about it. Okay, because this is the S25 Edge. This was the first engineering marvel. No one could really touch it. But if you look at the prices, $1,100 starting price, and then you get if you go to double the storage, you're at $1,220. You look at 2 cameras, whereas you go with the Ultra, which has less of an S Pen. They have that one on special, but regular price is $1,419, and that's for which one? The double the memory. Okay, but at least look at all those cameras and sensors in the back. At least you get a lot more for it, and you still have an S Pen. But by next year, you get rid of that thing, then it just get rid of the Ultra moniker, or just merge Ultra and Edge. But just don't don't tout an S Pen anymore. You guys lost the heart for it. Like I rely on S Pen, just not so much anymore because these punks keep taking stuff away from it. I have S Pens for my tablets, which I want to highlight here too. I have S Pens for my notes because I still have the notes and my Ultras. S24 Ultra being the last one that I got, and I had some for my Galaxy Z Fold 6, but now it's no longer a thing. So why the hell did I get an S Pen Pro that's supposed to work across everything, but now it doesn't work on the most important piece of tech that I have, and that's my foldable? Oh, it makes no sense. But then you have the Galaxy Tab S11. Look, I don't really know who this is marketed for anymore. This is more expensive than a laptop. And if any of you saw the commercials for this thing, they weren't even touting the tablet. They were showing Galaxy AI slash Gemini. So it's like even Samsung's like they're losing their heart on their tablets. The only good thing I could say about it is be able to use Dex, but at that point, might as well just have a laptop or a two-in-one. So no. So I if you look at the notes on the stream, I put lackluster event for Apple, lackluster event for Samsung, lackluster event for Google. Let's go to Google. And then we'll move on to Remarkable. Then I'm going to start answering questions of yours that and reading some comments that y'all sent over on YouTube. Mostly there were a couple of comments that came into Rumble, but they just disappeared. So I don't know if they were deleted. I still have like ghost notifications because it still says it's like a placeholder. Oh, there's a comment on your video, but when I click on the video, I don't see a comment. So I don't know if it was if there's like what you call it moderation. That wasn't me. Okay. All right, and I'm getting some stuff ready here. Okay. Right, now let me just focus here on the Pixel lineup. And this is the new, what is it? Moonstone. So the new Moonstone cover for the Pro. Yeah, I kind of like it. I just don't have it to show you. I ended up getting the Moonstone case and the Moonstone snap ring that works with the case for my Pixel 9 Pro. Because the same freaking hardware, except like the chipset's different. And look, people still found ways to make very long videos about this, even though there was really nothing there. It's really just how much more you can do with AI. That's really what it comes down to. And a lot of these features are going to translate over to the Pixel 9 if they haven't done so already. So I haven't felt a difference. I haven't felt a need. If anything, I think the biggest difference in a way, and inconvenient too, it's kind of annoying, was over with the watches. So let me go over to the watches, because this is the Pixel Watch 4, is it? Yeah, the Pixel Watch 4 is supposed to be the same size as the Pixel Watch 3. The thing is that they once again changed the charging, or the method of charging, okay? So they changed it, and now it's like, it's not backwards compatible with anything that they did with the Pixel 2. So I have a charger for my Pixel 1, because I have one. Then I had a charger for the Pixel 3, and if I wanted to upgrade or switch to this thing or just buy it for whatever reason, I would need another charger for that. And that's annoying. I really hate that. And of all three watches, the one that has the strongest frame, the sapphire crystal, stainless steel, that was the Pixel Watch. These other ones are aluminum. And I don't know how I got a gash on my Pixel 3 watch. It's like, how did that happen? Well, the Pixel Watch 3. But what I can tell you, and that's the part that really attracts me to this thing. Yeah, the Actua, the 360 display is pretty good. I do like that. It was kind of inevitable. We're all kind of hoping it would happen someday, and they finally did it. But it's not that. It's let me see. Aerospace grade aluminum, long lasting, fast charging. I heard it's supposed to go for like 2 days now, so I like that. And I think that they really cleaned up a few things here that make it look a lot better. But besides the training, come on, where is it? It's the right to repair of the watch that is the most significant upgrade to all this. Peace of mind. The text loss of pulse then calls for help. That's a good thing. I can tell you that I ended up getting a smartwatch for a dear family friend that recently had an accident and he couldn't reach his phone. He ended up getting a serious injury to his shoulder. He's elderly, and we didn't find out until way later. And I know for a fact, if he had had a smartwatch, in this case an Apple Watch, we would have been notified of the situation and be able to respond. And he probably would have gotten help way, way, way sooner. So it's these kind of things. When you know what you're getting into, then if you use them appropriately, then it shouldn't come as a surprise. I know some people are like, oh, I don't want to be tracked. Unless you're willingly getting into it, you know what you're getting into it, then you know how to leverage it. So in this case, it's peace of mind. I like to have eyes on, if you will, with someone that we care about. So I don't see it here. It didn't say, but I saw someone talk about it. With my carrier, water resistant. That this is supposed to be the first watch that's like a right to repair, and I don't see the notes here anymore. I'm gonna have to look into it. I was told that this will be a repairable watch that you can do at home, and if that's the case, that was one of the tempting reasons for why to get it. It's just that they don't have any of the colors that I like. Yeah, Obsidian, it's a safe bet. I have my first watches the same thing, but the porcelain, I liked it better on the watch than on the phone than the watch. Um, it's just kind of plain. And Moonstone, I don't know. I have the case. I'm not really drawn as much to it. So yeah. But anywho, as we chug along here for the tech stuff, we're getting near the end here. Before I start going over some of your comments and things, so I appreciate you all that are still sticking around. So, how many of you guys know about Remarkable? I hope that you do. And for those of you that should know, I've done reviews of this Remarkable Pro. I think is that the Pro or the 2? Remarkable 2, one of the two. And I done unboxing for the Paper Pro, which is this the big one that has like the color e-ink display and the accessories. So I have covered all that stuff. And believe it or not, my #1 video last year on Spotify was my review for the Remarkable Paper Pro. The Remarkable 2. Keeping it all together is a little difficult. So this one's called the Remarkable Paper Pro Move. So you guys didn't know about this, then now you will. So let me just show you what this thing is, because it's a smaller, like a notepad of sorts. So it's like the awesome Remarkable Paper Pro, just considerably slimmed down, but it's still $449. Ouch. And let's go over some of the niceties of this. So this one does have the color e-ink display, and the technology that gets out of your way. Yes, that's true. It's just that the problem is you got to carry another tool, and the whole purpose of like foldables and all that is to be more of an all-in-one. And Samsung, by getting rid of the freaking S Pen, is going backwards on that, which would require the use of something like this. Now, if we want to stay focused and just do this, then that's totally. I totally get it, but the fact of the matter is that you're still going to be carrying multiple devices with you. So you can express yourself, canvas color display, you can write, annotate, and read PDFs and ebooks in subtle, natural color, adjustable reading light, you convert handwriting to text, paper, never run out of paper, resize, undo, cut, copy, or create perfect lines and circles with our special software, folders, tags, and search. The mobile and desktop apps are pretty cool, except that you got to pay to be able to use the connectivity service. So share and collaborate. It's called Connect subscription. That you can get it, but there are abilities for you to integrate OneDrive, Google Drive, and I think one more. I think Dropbox to the tablet itself, so you can have access to your cloud online tools. So yeah, here it is. Integrate with other tools: Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, and Dropbox. I was right. Data safety and privacy, encryption on a device and in the cloud, and up to 2 weeks of battery life. Yes, I can tell you that. That's a pretty impressive thing. So let me get back to the Explore thing, so we can see some more pictures of this thing. It's a nice one. It work. Yes, both of them, even the big ones, they can work in landscape or portrait mode. Now, be that it's paper, technically I wish it was in portrait mode, but it's really impressive. Once you actually use it, it does feel that you're using paper to pen. And if it's the same thing as the Remarkable Paper Pro, and this one's the Move, so it's a smaller version of it, then it's just going to feel remarkable. It's part of the pun. But the thing is, it's really nice and neat. I love what they're doing about it. But as someone, I use this mostly for my manuscripts, because I don't want to be printing hundreds and hundreds of pages each time I gotta go through my rough draft of my manuscripts, whatever I've written. So I have 4 books back here. In the first book, I had to print that over and over and over again just to do my own editing, because I didn't have the money to pay for an editor. And like proofreading grammar and all that. I had to do it myself, and I couldn't do it just by reviewing it on the computer screen because eyes plays trick on you. So when you see it on paper, or in this case, the remarkable devices, it felt like I was doing it on paper. So then being able to annotate and mark where I wanted to change really helped. The big difference with the Paper Pro, the one that they brought out, is the color. Now you can highlight and see it. Now you can add red ink to the places you want to see. So it makes it easier to spot the corrections when you're doing this. And I absolutely love that. That's the only reason why I haven't fully relied on my Galaxy Tab 7 and Galaxy Tab S7, Galaxy Tab S9, because the S9 I have the note attachment for the cover, and that acts like this. So when you're writing with the S Pen, it feels like it's a marker to paper, but it's still, you're looking at, in this case, an AMOLED display, so you're still playing. It plays tricks on you when you're trying to make corrections, and the something that looks more paper-like really addresses that. So for me, those things have come in handy. That's why for the Paper Pro, I bought the keyboard attachment. So for my next novel, the fourth entry in the series that I call The Many Misadventures of Enoch Bellagio, a romantic comedy series available on Amazon and on Kindle and print. That's what I intend to do my writing on. So I'm going to be doing my test. I'll be using Microsoft Word and integrating with the Remarkable Paper Pro and see how my drafts improve from there, and really how I can separate from an LCD or an AMOLED display, and just to be able to look at an e-ink and how much of an improvement that is for the workflow. So these tools have a purpose to them, but I also feel, and I believe fellow YouTuber Laura Malvoyant had this to say too, is that the digital minimalism, that lifestyle, while it is a lifestyle to try to disconnect from a lot of things, that's what this is trying to go for: distraction-free design, eye-friendly display, easy to use on the go, and try to be disconnected from other stuff. While I like that, unless there's an ecosystem though of accessories for it, there will not be mass adoption. And that's also the other thing though, that this also starts becoming a new lifestyle, and an expensive one at that, because now you're going to want everything minimal, and because it looks nice and clean, you're going to start spending more money on things that you really don't need. I've seen people do this. They go down that trail and end up buying just that, oh my gosh, that actually looks really, really nice, and they'll complement whatever I have very well. So they go down this rabbit hole and end up, it's just there's just so much that they will lose right there. So I don't think that's a solution either. So I don't want people to go out to spend all their money because now they're going to supposedly live a digital minimalistic life, only to realize that, hey, you still need to be connected some way, somehow. So at least the Remarkable lineup knows this and tries to provide a solution, if you want it, you have to pay for it, to be able to integrate with other devices. It could be your computer, it could be your mobile applications. It's a Connect service, and then you can integrate with the cloud as well. So that's one thing there. And I did see, I see Anon Blue CC did message on a comment on YouTube. I'll get to you in a little bit because I think I'm done with this. All right, cool. Oh, see, there it is. So this is the picture I'm talking about. So that's where you can always keep your notes. What is this? Empower your team while keeping complete control over company devices and data with a new subscription plan. Well, then I'll have to look into that because this thing might come in handy. So yeah. Okay, so I have Blue Anon CC over on YouTube with respects to let me bring this back up here. That's just me. It says Jimmy Kimmel's been lost for 10 years now, honestly for the best. Yeah, I have to look, I agree. This goes for just about everyone in late night. Do you guys remember if kind of switching off from tech again, and I'm going to go to my community over on YouTube because I'm going to be reading some of your comments from my previous videos, including my interview with the Unplugged CEO. Go check it out. You haven't done so already. It's definitely worthwhile. And for those of you that were interested in checking out my stream that for some reason doesn't pull up on YouTube, you can check out the Rumble one. I'll leave the Rumble link on my community post, okay? So you can check it out there. Speaking of Unplugged, that's what I was forgetting because stupid OneNote didn't synchronize my notes. I almost forgot about this. So I actually, because of what happened with last year, the tragedy that happened, I didn't do my video on the camera comparison or the camera test for unplugged phone because they dropped firmware that addresses the camera solely. They've been working on tweaking the algorithm for how they processes images, and I have noticed a difference. So far, they're prioritizing the rare camera shooters. They simplify the camera UI, and what else? Low light photography has been the most standout improvement in that. So I do have some harsh lighting camera pictures that I did take, and I did use the iPhone 15 Pro, like I did in my original review, the unplugged phone, as comparisons. Okay, so I ended up posting some of the pictures that I did take over to the community on YouTube. But if you guys actually want to see not just those pictures, but how they look next to an iPhone, that go check out the thread over on X. So I do have it there. I think it's my latest post. Whenever if you're watching this live, it's the latest post. The first post on the thread is the pictures, like about 4 pictures that I took with the unplugged phone, and then after that is a series of 5, at least 5 comparison shots. One with the unplugged phone, and it's labeled, and the other one with the iPhone 15 Pro, so you guys can see what it looks like. So it's great improvements. It's beta firmware, okay, so it's not final. And Unplugged just released another firmware update to introduce a cloud functionality with encryption so you can be able to have cloud storage on it. So I'm going to be looking into that too. This was something that the new CEO, Joe Weil, and I talked about it. So I recommend you go check out the interview I did with him. It's an in-depth conversation about the Unplugged, the new philosophy, where they're going with this, and what is in store for the future. But most of you that own the hardware, don't be worried about a new version of the phone, because that's not technically in the works. Although there would be like a little bit of a facelift, if you will, with the new color approach. But the software that I'm testing is on the old hardware, which is the same hardware that's coming out later. It's just going to have a different look for like the back. That's pretty much it. So they've been relabeling to relaunch, and I think what date? Today is September 18th. So they're going that direction, and I recommend just go check out the interview. We go really in depth. So the questions that a lot of you have sent me, whether it was through DMs on social media or left it over on the video platforms, and on comments on some posts that I made about Unplugged, I took as many of them as possible, and that is answered, I think, within the last 15 to 20 minutes of the interview. Okay, because we were just I was really interested in letting Joe have his say about the new philosophy, the approach, and the direction he's taking Unplugged. But then I had questions to ask, so that's why those are saved towards the end. Okay, so I recommend you go check that out. It's available on YouTube, and it's been getting a lot of plays here on Rumble, been getting a lot of plays on Play TV as well. Gangjin World, thank you. Everybody's just they're interested in this, and so far the reaction has been overwhelmingly positive, and that's interesting because that's kind of the tone of the interview too, a more positive approach. And that's the philosophical change that Unplug is doing. So I think it's translating. I think it's resonating with people, because it's not like it's trying to scare you into what big tech does. It's to realize, yeah, it does exist, but here's how you can go about it without being punished for it. And we have more competitors in the space, like Brax 3 and all that. So yeah, so I'm gonna be reading those. But someone chimed into the live, Blue Anon, if some of you are still joining, had chimed in with respect to how I started the stream, saying that Jimmy Kimmel's been lost for 10 years now. Honestly, for the best. Okay, I'm old enough to remember the late night talk show wars. Those were always the most fun times, because it was David Letterman, someone I don't like, versus Jay Leno, someone that I'm like about. We relate to cars together, so that's the only good thing he has going for him whenever I try to criticize it. But my favorite one of them all that was always overlooked was Conan O'Brien. Okay, second most favorite. My most favorite above all was Craig Ferguson. Okay, Craig Ferguson should have been the one to take over the Late Show, but we didn't get that. And if you ever want to see someone handle tragedy the right way, unlike Jimmy Kimmel, look at Craig Ferguson's reaction to the first time Britney Spears had a meltdown. Go find it on YouTube. It's like a 10-minute to 15-minute monologue, I think. It was a long monologue. And you will be moved to tears, because that's how it's done. And it's relatable too. Whereas everyone was mocking Britney Spears, Craig Ferguson rose above it all. So I recommend you check that out. It's definitely worthwhile. Now, Jimmy Kimmel losing his way, Yeah, I would say so. He was the one actually who's really funny when he was poking fun at this whole Jay Leno Conan O'Brien drama because Conan O'Brien was going to take over the Tonight Show, the Late Show, whatever. The point is, they all sound the same. But he was going to take over the show after Jay Leno. So then Conan O'Brien did, but then Jay Leno wanted to come back. And when they wanted to come back, they slaughtered him on his own show an hour before Conan. Like, what the hell is going on? Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel was having the time of his life poking fun at all this. So, yeah, that was that. I'm old enough to remember when he was actually funny. Late night has not been that. With Stephen Colbert, who goes by Stephen Colbert, when he was doing the Colbert Report, which was kind of like a satirical parody thing of the Bill O'Reilly's the No Spin Zone and all that, that was funny. I don't care that I didn't agree. I thought it was freaking hilarious. And Jon Stewart, the guy owned that Daily Show, okay? It was not the same after he left at all. And there's a bunch of talent that came out of that. There was Steve Carell was there, Stephen Colbert, John Oliver. Those guys are all from the Daily Show as correspondents. Samantha Bee, I think, was from there too. Just that once they got their own shows, they weren't actually funny. That was really, they were within their element when they worked as an ensemble. But Jon Stewart could hold his own too. The thing is, under the era of Trump, what we have seen happen is that they've gone the ways where, like, you know what, we're not at each other's throats. We're actually united together to speak truth to power. That's why when Stephen Colbert, he's the one that went to go do a speech, I think, at the White House Correspondents' Dinner when George Bush was around. And he went over there and just roasted, but mean-spirited, roasted George W. Bush. And there were some laughs. And even Jon Stewart was like, dude, man, you really took it to them. But I don't think he was invited back for a while. Seth Meyers, I don't even know how he ended up getting a show, but I did like it whenever he did do the White House Correspondents' Dinner when he was roasting Obama in a fun way. I thought that was really hilarious, especially when he said, you know who you would like very much, Barack Obama? 2008 Barack Obama. You would have loved him. I thought that was the most hilarious line, just to show the differences in the presidency as Obama evolved over time or the mask fell off. But the point is that there was a time where you could poke fun at either side. That's not what happened. That's not what happened with Stephen Colbert. That's not what happened when he took over the Tonight Show or whatever it is. That's not what happened with Jimmy Kimmel. That's not what happened with Seth Meyers. And with Jon Stewart coming back, even Trevor Noah, none of them were doing comedy anymore. They were being propagandists. You know, the only one that kind of steered away from all this controversy? Conan O'Brien. The guy that everybody keeps forgetting about. He ended up at TBS, I think. And then after him was Pete Holmes. If you don't know who Pete Holmes is, type in Bad Man College Humor. And you find a 45-minute compilation of all his satirical takes on Christian Bale's Batman. Hilarious stuff. You'll never see the movies the same way again. Excellent impressionist. So he got his own show, and he ended up doing all these great parodies of like X-Men firing people, Street Fighter HR, hilarious stuff. And then recently he brought that lineup back as Christian Bale's Batman firing current iterations of whatever DC Comics throwing out there, and like the DCEU. Like, hilarious guy. But Pete Holmes, his show, he works better for skits, I think. And he does hilarious stand-up, but I think the weak point for him was to hold the show together. So I don't think people really were receptive to that. But they love his skits. That's where he really shows his strengths. But he just has a hard time not cracking up. I think that's what kind of did it in for him sometimes when he did a show. But I like the guy. He's freaking hilarious. But Conan O'Brien ended up doing his own podcast. So I'm sure he has agreements with his other fellow colleagues, but he just stayed away from the drama. These other guys thrived on drama, vilifying Americans that didn't agree with them. And they would say the meanest of things, and that's surprising that they got away with it through the FCC. So, yes, Blue Anon's right that Jimmy Kimmel, but it wasn't just him. A lot of them lost their way. And I wish all of these guys would have looked at Craig Ferguson, and any studio would have said the same thing and say, we got to keep this guy because he's the best that we have. And he's a genuine dude. Okay. So, man, that would have been cool to have a Craig Ferguson show to keep going. But at least he has his podcast. So check that out. And by the way, for those of you that like Craig Ferguson stuff. If you guys didn't know, the Drew Carey Show channel popped up out of the blue just recently. It's on season 5 now. They're dropping every single episode daily at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. I mean, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. And I'd never seen the Drew Carey Show. I just knew about it. I am loving it. It's so freaking hilarious. I'm season 5 already. So haven't missed a day. So check it out. It's for free. That's so cool because it wasn't on any streaming service. But I ended up buying a DVD set anyway. Okay. So I've been. Oh, snap. Okay. I didn't know it was going on for that long. I think I started at a weird hour. I normally start at the top of the hour, not like towards the bottom of the half. Okay, so let me go backwards in some of these comments. I'm going to read them to you. You guys can't see it, but I will. Okay, I'll start from that one because every time I see a complaint about Eric Prince, I know that's probably the last question I responded to. I responded to that one. Okay, so someone posted on my unplugged phone long-term review. Someone posted that, you know what? Maybe you guys could see it. Let me go this way this time. That's kind of small, huh? Tell you what, let me go back to my usual setup. There, I feel better about that. Okay, just too many moving parts. All right, so starting off with this one here. This is from David. David with the 1 instead of an I. David W. 1 month ago wrote on my unplugged phone long-term review. Graphene OS is more secure and potentially be much cheaper. Well, there's a yes and no component to that because you still got to buy the Pixel. So if you're, I believe they do support like the A lineup. So yes, you're right. You can get like a half priced because the unplugged phone is $989, and then the Pixel is anywhere from like what $799 and above, unless you get the A series, which is about like half of that. Then technically you're right because you're not paying for the OS. However, future updates is the problem, and Graphene OS is one of those that are trying to figure out what happens here in the future because basically Android is the source code's being closed down, so to speak, because Google just wants you to use virtual in like a my goodness, what do they call it? A virtual simulator to do this instead of actually doing it with the hardware. So they don't have they're not providing the binaries for the phones anymore for like privacy focused OS makers to be able to do that. That's why the Calyx OS project is they say it's on hold for 6 months. That's another way of saying it's indefinite until they figure something out because even the founder is gone and their lead engineer is gone, and Graphene OS was like a chicken running like a chicken without a head running around earlier in May, but they kind of settle down to figure out how they can reverse engineer Android 15. So future updates are a thing. And that's one of the questions I did ask Unplugged because okay, what about you guys? I'm assuming just like the Brax team, they have control over the OEM and the software for the most part that you guys will be able to work around it because you have your own hardware to work with. And to them, they're safe because of that. They're an OEM, just like Brax team, and they're able to keep going without any of those concerns. So that's one of the advantages about being an OEM. I know for a fact that there was a time that Calyx OS was trying to partner up with a hardware manufacturer. I believe it was in the European Union years ago to try to avoid something like this. So that never materialized, unfortunately. All right, so this is what is the Brax 3 phone by Braxman. This is from John Luis 2225. Okay, so if your phone is lost or stolen, I guess you call it a day, right? Yeah, pretty much. Thumbs up. This is from. Okay, I did read this one before. This is someone that had an issue with my my conversation with Joshua Phillip about China's global economic influence and Taiwan's strategic importance. Okay, so here the Brax 3 unboxing video. This is from Bricks and Mortar. Appears Braxman got it right this time around. Good for him. Thumbs up for you. This one, answering your questions and setting up the Brax 3. Question and answers volume 2. This one's from Tufatula1378. Come to the point, talk less. Yes, the way I had titled it it gave the impression that I was going to be setting up while answering the questions. So I'm like, man, that's how I wrote it. So I did it universally. So if I did it like on one thing, it just blasted it everywhere. And that while that was my intention, there was a lot of context that I needed to provide before I got there. So I timestamped the stream after the fact. So this individual, I know for a fact, saw it after the fact, but I don't think saw the timestamps. It should appear on the play. So I I didn't mean to go on for that long. I even mentioned it on the stream that I did go on for too long. So yeah, I'll try to be better at that should that ever happen again. But yeah, there was just so much to talk about because so many people were complaining. Those that got it were just approaching me to different places, trying to get Rob Braxman and team's attention. But once they found the forums, that was the right place to go to. So I have links to the forums in that Q&A and including, I think, in the review, so people can go check it out themselves. Okay, so this one is from Bobby Johnson 116. This is from my post. I put, if applicable, which of these social media platforms do you use? And the follow-up question was, why don't you follow me on any of them if you're on there? So Bobby Johnson 116 says Reddit, so I can know real time where National Guard, military, and ICE are deployed on U.S. soil in real time. Yeah. Right now, California is trying to pass a law that would require ICE agents to not be masked up. So that is an incentive and an incitement to dox and commit violence, just like the issue was that we were talking about earlier in the stream. I don't like it, and I don't like this either, that they're trying to dox. The whole thing's ugly because to what intention is this? To go confront them? Or to go warn people? Because those things, once there's resistance involved, it opens a whole can of worms. So just be careful with what you're doing out there, okay? All right, this is from Elder God UK, and he writes on my Brax 3 smartphone review. I need one of these immediately. Okay, and there's 2 replies. And someone, it doesn't really say a username here, but LOL, I ordered in January. Still not even a meaningful email response, let alone a confirmation of dispatch or tracking number. Be prepared to wait somewhere between 6 to 9 months. And Rick D. Sanchez, not to mention, you may not get the whole order. No one has received the SD cards. And I'm going to give a thumbs up and a heart to that. I thought I saw that comment before, but that's true. I completely forgot about the SD cards, and I haven't heard if there's gonna be a follow up to that. So, look, you made promises, you gotta deliver on them. You don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. That's a rule of thumb for any business. There are stuff that's out of our control, tariffs, logistical issues, supply chain, all that. Totally get it. Trying to work within the boundaries and all that. So this is I've seen people express themselves strongly, and Rick D. Sanchez has been one that's commented the most. And shout out to you, Rick D. Sanchez, because you've actually highlighted a ton of things for me that I'm trying to assemble together when I do a follow-up Brax 3 Q&A Volume 3, because I want to address some of these things as the phone technically will stop moving from pre-order and go to actual sale, because there are stuff that we are anticipating as adopters of this device that we were told are supposed to be part of the experience, such as right to repair. And now I'm hearing that we might not actually be able to replace the battery. And no one's received their SD cards as of 13 days ago at this comment was left. So there are things that I'm looking at. So on the same video, this is from Walknala. Mine is sitting in a box since the WPA2 Wi-Fi doesn't work for me yet. I use other phone's hotspot, which is WPA3. Sucks that I have to wait for that update, but I was probably going to wait to try Ubuntu Touch anyway. Yep, that's me. I want to try Ubuntu Touch. I thought the mobile data would be the best part that would... I thought the mobile data would be the part that would fail, but it works perfectly. I think a knockoff screen replacement for a broken Pixel 7 Pro or for a normal secondhand one costs half as much with much better specs, much more mature software with Graphene OS. I know it's supposed to be an open phone supporting cool software, but bruh, the stock OS Wi-Fi should not be fading like that. Hopefully this can be smoothed over with updates soon. And I'm going to give this a heart. I agree because I have not experienced those Wi-Fi issues that some people are reporting. Okay, so I hope that is fixed. This one's respecting the word podcast. This is with for my Brax 3 unboxing and impressions. I couldn't get him to check the IMEI number on the Cricket website. I tried his first phone, and Cricket wouldn't let me use it. Yeah, I heard about that. Supposedly, the IMEI was blacklisted, and everyone was sharing IMEI. Someone explained it to me that way. I haven't heard anything else since then. So, yeah. On my Brax 3 smartphone review, Blondenish Genome Institute 8193. I hope I got that right. Is the microphone as bad as the speaker? All I can say is just listen to the test and see for yourself or hear it for yourself. That's as best a recording I was able to get to. I don't like how teeny the microphone is. That's my same complaint with the unplugged phone. It sounds very tiny in terms of audio pickup, and it tends to lack lower decibels. So it lacks bass. It tends to favor treble, and some of the stuff might sound more high pitched than they should. And a great example is if you tune into the Brax 3 smartphone review, get to the part where I get to the camera test, and there's a moment where I do a comparison of a video that I recorded in an acoustically, in a trium with the Brax 3, and then I did the same with an iPhone 15 Pro, just so you can get an idea of the massive difference in microphone recording quality. Okay, this is from Juhaid, is it Juhaid Elixir? I think I pronounced it right. The first and probably only phone that will work unironically be worth that. Okay, let me read that again. This is for my unplugged phone 2.0 or refined focus with guest Joe Wild. The first and probably only phone that would unironically be worth $1,000. Now, I'm wondering, this is from 3 days ago, so I'm wondering if you got to the part where Unplug announced that they're looking at building the phone in the United States. Building a phone in the United States. So I asked them in the interview, would that mean that the unplugged phone will get much more expensive because now you're going to be building it here? And their goal is to not change the price outright. So they're going to try to work within the budget to make this happen, which is a phenomenal thing if I've ever heard one. These are the steps that are needed. And that's what I want to see more of. When you're trying to make such an inexpensive phone, you're going to run into those issues because you're trying to keep it as bottom of the barrel, inexpensive. You got to cut a lot of corners to make this happen while trying to provide a premium product. But there's also the expression, that's what I said about Brax 3 also, that you get what you pay for. Okay? So the unplugged phone, I know that the early adopters, they had the toughest period to go through because it was a big adjustment period and a learning process, for which is why I spent so much time trying to help people with the unplugged phone, because there were no other forums to do so, and you guys trusted me to be your voice. So the fact that they're aiming to build in the United States, I think is pretty cool. And this is from my Balmuda the Brew review from Jeep Big E. That thing is loud as hell. It sounded a lot louder in the video. I'll tell you that. I didn't adjust the volume or anything like that. That I just put what my microphones picked up, and I processed it with my overlays, my voiceover. But the machine itself isn't as loud as it might sound in the video. Maybe because of where I have it, but I know it's working because there's a lot of steam being left out of there, and it does steam it boils at a rapid rate. So I must say that it's pretty impressive to see that thing, just boil pretty quick. Okay, so I hope that people can actually give it a shot. I've had the Balmuda the Brew now for, I don't know, a year and a half. Is it? Maybe a year and a half. And if I have had it for a year and a half, then I could tell you that it's consistently made the perfect coffee cup every single time. In fact, my father, who's not all that big of a fan of drip coffee, he usually drinks instant. He told me today, like, hey, I noticed that when the machine brews the coffee, it just tastes so much better than when he tries to do his own pour over, because he just dumps a lot of hot water in it. And it's like, there's an art to this, Father. So he's like, I know it takes a little bit of time because like 7 minutes per cup. So it was worth the wait because he was so impressed just how much more different it is when it's done properly. That's why this machine is is pretty impressive. So that's something that I wanted to highlight there. Balmuda the brew, pretty impressive. And let me check if they still have it and in other colors. Balmuda. And this will be the last thing I share, folks, because I stayed way later and I try to get through as many comments as possible too. Um, and I will be revisiting the Brax 3 when I get a chance. And for those of you that are tuning in late, I'm sorry I couldn't do the. I'm sorry I couldn't do the. What should we call it? Um, the camera test for the unplugged phone. I run out of time to be able to do that. So I put it out there and I got to test the new firmware update because it brings new features that were talked about in my conversation with the Unplugged CEO. And I think I need to get going on that. So let me see, and I'll share. What is this? A moon kettle? That's new. Okay, so this is Balmuda. They're showing the guy's face instead of the thing. Right, there it is. So it's $6.99. If I'm not mistaken, I thought that was more expensive. It might have been more expensive. To me, that dollar amount has gone the distance. What didn't go the distance for me was the ones that I spent a lot of money on and kept screwing up my cup of coffee. Okay, let's see. And this is what they call the moon kettle. I like that. There and back again. That's the name of my second book. Okay, so this is the moon kettle. It's a blending modern design with timeless tradition. This kettle elevates your everyday tea and coffee rituals. Its elegant silhouette and thoughtful details invite calm into your space, embodying a philosophy that tools shape both actions and the atmosphere around them. My goodness, a marriage of tradition and modernity. It brings tranquility and style to your routine. All right, guys, you a little okay. You guys went a little too far with that, but sure, yeah, just sure. But it looks nice. I like it. That's mostly for tea, though. I might check that out. That's interesting. But yeah, all right, guys. I went a lot longer than I thought, and my thanks to you all that have been tuning in on YouTube, Gangjin World, Rumble, Locals, Twitch, D Live, X. Where else did I tune into? Man, also across everything today. Yeah, so 1 million. I see you're chiming in. Yeah, I'm tuning out just now, but I see you were chiming into the live. So thank you. This was streams that have been going on for about an hour and a half. So you're welcome to get to the beginning. This is where I'll leave it. Remember, everybody, to like, share, and subscribe to stay in the know. All my socials are right here down below. And like I said, I had to sound off on this whole cancel culture. Is it what it is? And Charlie, so I did talk about that. And well, I'm a permanent fixture for Charlie Kirk's family here. But hopefully I'll find a way to fit in this poster signed by Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and Val Kilmer, with the certificate of authenticity, and also get back to you guys about what Heat 4K, the experience is like. Anyway, I got phone calls to return, and I got other phone calls to make. Thank you so very much for watching this episode of The Under Segovia Show. Remember to like, share, subscribe, stay to know. Follow me across the socials at The Under Segovia, on X_Under Anything about me at theandresegovia.com. And for those of you over on Substack, you're getting a lot more of my content there, because I've been streaming live to Substack. That's the one I forgot to mention. But yeah, so I'm also posting to the notes. So if you don't want to be on X or Instagram and the other stuff, I try to mirror some of those posts over to notes. So I don't know if you guys see them. If you do, drop a comment, hit a like on the note, and then I'll know. Otherwise, I might stop posting it because it just takes up even more time. But I just know that Substack's becoming my home for broadcasting everything. But I am across a bunch of other places, and I hope you'll join me there. My affiliate links are in the video description down below. Oh, and a PSA for everybody. This is a big one. It's been drawing my attention that there might be some accounts pretending to be me out there. So I guess I made it. I made it to the level where I'm being impersonated. People have stolen my content before, but this is next level, okay? So if you believe that it's an account that's not me, You can report it. Wherever I am, I'm usually verified. Okay, so I'm verified on just about everything that's out there, and that's important to me because of these situations. I would never ask anybody to support me directly. And just so you know, the only ever time I've asked anybody to support my show is by purchasing through my affiliates, and that's it. Support them to support me. That's it. I never asked anybody to donate directly to me. So by all means, just be aware of that. That's where I'll leave it. Thank you so much.